get a rich friend. Good evening, people here in person on this cold night, and hopefully we've got people participating virtually in this meeting of the Friendship Heights Village Council of December 8th, 2025. I'd like to ask my fellow council members to please state their names clearly into the microphone, and also when you have comments over the course of the evening, to try to be sure to speak directly in the microphone. I am Martha Solt, and I'm chair of the council.
Roy Schaefer.
Vic Basil.
Francine Klein.
John Conlow.
Allison Alt.
Al Mueller.
Thank you. We're going to go a little out of order. We do have our project manager on the line, and I know in the past we could hear very well. So,
Yes.
Jim, if you can hear me, welcome to our meeting.
Jim, go ahead.
Good evening, thank you.
Okay, so to everybody, I hope you all know that opening Page Park safely and expeditiously is our top priority. And our project manager, Jim Wilson, is on the line, and he will be providing us updates on Page Park and the Red House since we met last. So, Jim, I'm going to virtually hand you the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry that I could not be there tonight, but I'm going to start with the Red House and then do Page Park. And the Red House, we have the building permits in hand, and the general contractor, Managed Home, is now in the process of completing their subcontractor buyout, which is awarding all of the subcontractors, and they're preparing for mobilization. They need to have their pre-construction meeting with the county, and that will be scheduled before they actually begin the demolition work, which will start on the 11th. So construction is going to start this week. We have received, I'll talk a little bit about schedule highlights and any owner decisions on both of the projects. I have received an email from the architect that Managed Home is using, and they are also the architects that are serving the tenant, and they brought up just a point of just a kind of interest to us that Julie and I have talked about, and I'm kind of trying to help navigate the tenant actually for this a little bit, is that they've requested commercial equipment and the commercial hoods in a way that are triggering a certain level of mechanical ventilation that are going to be probably more involved than I think the tenant understands that is going to happen. So I've reached out to them just to say, look, let me help you. I'm not charging anybody anything for that time or whatever, but I just thought, look, surprises like this are not easy ones, and so I've reached out to them and have not heard back as of yet, but we will be doing that. So it's just going to require larger equipment and ductwork that probably than they think they were going to have to initially do. As far as our project is concerned, where the schedule highlights is the demolition. We're looking to begin that on the 11th. All the trades, the work is going to progress, and the trades are going to begin doing all of their rough-in work, all the electrical, plumbing, all those trades are going to start doing all their rough-ins in the first week of January. We're anticipating to have county final inspections on the project in the end of March, and final completion and turnover the first week of April. So that's we're trying to do all this work and get it done prior to the tenant coming in there, because having two different contractors in the space is probably not a great one. And at this point, there are no decisions or open or outstanding items for the village to take action on. So Any questions on the Red House?
Councilmember Mueller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Jim. If I understand you correctly, the village will complete roughly in early April, including getting its approval by the county permit people, all of what it needs to do for the disability requirements. And at that point, the tenant begins their reconstructed areas, which they are paying for. When are they expected to be done so that they can actually open and have whatever ceremony that we want for that?
You heard that question, Jim.
I think so. When is the tenant going to do their work and be done with their work? Is that basically what it was?
Yes.
Yes.
I do not have their schedule. I don't believe they've actually submitted for building permit yet for their plans. So we will be done before they begin. And so as soon as I can, I wanted to be able to help them kind of understand. I think they're from, Colorado or whatever it was. I just want them to make sure they understand the timing and all the loopholes they're going to have to go through with Montgomery County and the health department. So I don't know that information. When I do, it'll absolutely be communicated to everybody.
And I believe they also are putting in for a liquor permit, which they realize is sometimes a challenge. And I believe way back when they first got involved with us, they were hoping we could help them. I don't know that we can, but that is a specific permit that is going to be important for them.
I don't know that Julian, I don't know that I completely got all that.
The question was about the liquor permit and whether or not we would be able to assist in that, as it's potentially a lengthy process in addition to the food permit from Montgomery County.
We have not. I do know they have not asked me to help them with that. It is a lengthy process, and I typically the restaurateurs or whatever it is that I've worked with in the past, they've taken care of that, but they have not asked me for any help on that. And I'm sure there are enough people around that have done it that I would be able to provide some assistance. But they have not asked me for anything for that, or was not intending to, or wasn't aware that I could or should help them.
Mayor?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there's nothing in the contract that obligates us to assist them.
I would really doubt that. That would be a really bad thing to include in there.
Right. Yep.
From the council, any other questions or comments about the Red House? Moving on to Page Park. With Jim's assistance, we got, I guess they call it renderings of 3 options for Page Park. We solicited feedback from residents concerning those 3 options, and we had one public meeting where we got some more input. We had one person ask a question concerning safety of option number 3 that does not have a fence, and Jim responded to me that it completely meets the codes and it's safe. You only need a fence if the wall height exceeds 30 inches and is accessible to the public, et cetera, et cetera. And he said the plans on option 3 provide us sufficient barriers. So we are okay on that.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, could you repeat that? I had trouble hearing. Who indicated that?
Jim, our project manager. Would you like to add a little more on that, Jim, or explain it in a way that I didn't?
Yeah, I'm not in, and Martha, I'm sorry. I have seen, and Julian, I apologize. I did look around for seeing if I saw all the renders. I saw the previous 2 options, or is option 1 keeping the pergola?
Yeah, option 1 is keeping the pergola. Option 2 involves a fence. Option 3 has no fence, if that helps you.
Yeah, the if the wall, and I don't know for certain, I have not measured it myself, if the height of the wall exceeds 30 inches and the public can basically stand at the edge of the wall, it needs a fence. If you have a bushed and kind of a landscaped area and shrubs and bushes in the area that is really designed, it's not kind of a public forum or a public space, if I may. It's landscape, bushes and shrubs and such. It then would not need the fence.
Thank you. Let's see. So I guess, am I the first one sort of announcing what the email responses on the options were? It looks like our residents emailed, the vast majority prefer option 3, which is vegetation and no fence, but permanently removing the pergola. Only 13 wanted option 1, which is retaining the pergola as is. A few more wanted option 2 with the fence and grass, but most people wanted vegetation and permanently removing the pergola. So that came from emails, and then we had a public meeting where a very few people came, but they were able to explain their positions, shall I say at length? But yes, in detail. So I was thinking that before we proceed with actual motions on this, if council members would like to share their views, and that before we proceed with motions and voting, if people have opinions they'd like to share or questions, I think that might be a better way to do this, unless people want to strictly follow Robert's Rules of Order. Councilmember Muller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The public hearing that we had did have a very small number of people here, 6 people, I believe, and I think all of them were in favor of option number 3. I brought to their attention that that option did not have a fence, and despite what the project managers told us for the first time, people have a way of not obeying the most logical rules. And it seemed to me that it was an unsafe situation where people could walk through hedges without too much trouble, especially if they were children, especially if they were disabled, or especially if they were simply clumsy, like myself. And if they were to fall, they would be seriously hurt. I don't know where the rule is that 30 inches is somehow safe to fall, but there are rocks below that drop-off, and I think it would be wise and incumbent not to presume that it is safe. I, for one, don't think it's safe. And if something were to happen, having pointed this out, I think the village would be responsible. I would hate to have, knowing the way the permit department works, to have us go through all this, and then, since they seem to have more than one person with more than one opinion, after everything was all settled, come and say, oh, by the way, we've suddenly discovered and decided that this might be a problem. I can alert the council, my colleagues, that when the retirement home right next to us submitted its permit procedure years ago in 1995 or whatever it was, and everything was all set to go, there was a last-minute concern that their banisters or railings or whatever, I don't remember the details, that had initially been approved were not adequate, and the permit was therefore withheld. I would suggest respectfully that if the idea of a fence is not included, that they check with the permit department beforehand, before submitting, and see what the feeling is for that safety issue. The small gathering of people who heard this concern, I think every single one of them then came back and testified that, well, the simplest solution that they were comfortable with was to keep the landscape option of option 3, but to add a fence. So essentially, the people who heard that for the first time, since this was not an option 4, felt that combining the safety measure of option 2 with the landscape part of option 3 would be a comfortable solution to the concern. I share that with my colleagues and hope that that is something that you can consider in your deliberations.
Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, that's a fair point. Presumably, the safety issue has been vetted by our consultant who proposed the options. And I'm a little reluctant to start changing them because we gave people 3 options and they made their choices based on those options. But what we can do is certainly take this up at the Parks and Grounds Committee, because there's nothing that prevents us, if we choose option 3 as presented, we can still add the fence. So that's something I would say we could take up at the Parks and Grounds Committee and see if there is you know, that is something that people want to do and/or is required.
I have thoughts on this. At the particular meeting we're talking about, people didn't come up and talk a second time at the microphone. I think only one person did that. So to say that everyone agreed with this, I think is not an accurate description of the meeting. That's number one. But number two, I'm really loath to presume we know more about the code, we know more about safety than the experts we're hiring. I think we've had trouble with that before. I think we can certainly ask questions. We can certainly ask, as you suggested, Councilmember Mueller, ask our project manager to go do a double check ask about this. But we are not experts on this, so I really don't want to go too far down this road. I'm open to other comments before we start proceeding, unless there are other comments proceeding with making some decisions here. Okay, so I talked to most people to make sure we're thoroughly addressing all the options. So,
Madam Chair, if you will, there may be residents, I being one of them, who have public comments about the decision that the council will make.
I'm sorry, we're not accepting comments from the audience now, and there was a lot of opportunity.
I request you follow your agenda to enable public comment to inform council before you proceed to vote on this.
I understand your request. We are accommodating our project manager's schedule. So just like we have previously, we've made all the Page Park items first. We've had loads of opportunities for comments from people. And you sent out all kinds of alerts. We sent them all out to the buildings. We had a public meeting. I think we've done our share of outreach. So we'll be going through all the options. And we're going to need a second on these to proceed. So I moved to reinstall the pergola consistent with all code and engineering requirements for an estimated cost of $49,000. Option 1. Is there a second on that?
Well, for the purpose of
Okay. So shall we have a vote on that? Or further discussion on option 1? Okay. So all those in favor of, and I'm going to say this slowly, reinstalling the pergola consistent with all code and engineering requirements for an estimated cost of $49,000, if you could raise your hand. I don't see anyone, so I think that's, I think the motion fails. Vic, well, all those saying no? Okay, so I'm sorry, yeah, no one's abstaining is the point, yes, so we have 7 noes. Thank you, so we'll move on to option 2, which I move to remove the pergola permanently and replace it with vegetation and a fence, and for an estimated cost of, I'm sorry. Option 2, to remove the pergola permanently, replacing with vegetation and a fence for an estimated cost of $20,000 to $25,000. Is there a second for that? Okay, we have a second. And is there any discussion on only this option? I don't think so, so I'll call for the vote. I'm sorry, okay.
Microphone, Al, Mike.
This option is a fence, but essentially a lawn and no additional landscaping. Is that correct?
Less on the sort of vegetation and the shrubbery with grass, with a fence, kind of in a, shall I say, a U-shaped configuration.
Thank you.
All those in favor of adopting option 2, if they would raise their hand, and I'm doing that as a demonstration only. So I see 1 yes for option 2. All those not in favor of option 2, if they would raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are no's, so that motion fails. So we move on to option 3. So I move to remove the pergola permanently and replace it with vegetation for an estimated cost of $10,000 to $15,000. Is there a second? We've got a second. And any discussion on this motion alone? Francine. On this motion alone, any discussion? Mr. Mueller? I'm sorry, Councilmember Mueller?
I agree with the concern that was expressed at the public meeting that this is an unsafe option. And because it is not defined as such in the regulations, does not prevent us from putting a fence there as an extra safety precaution. If something were to happen, I don't think the council could legally say that the consultant is to blame. The council gets its information from many sources, including consultants, including specialists. They give us their opinions, and sometimes they give us legal advice. But ultimately, it is the decision of the council, and I think pretending that a hedge is going to prevent individuals, especially youngsters who are being encouraged to come to this park, from falling, I think is a mistake. And I think we will be liable, both legally and morally, so I would vote no. I think we should have, because it came up at a public meeting, we should have a separate option. We were given 3 options, but that doesn't mean there were only 3 options in the universe of choices. This option was suggested not by yours truly, but by at least one, and while the chair is correct, they didn't all come back to the microphone, but they were all shaking their heads in agreement, and it was pretty obvious, since it was only 5 or 6 people there, that they, having heard the option of combining options 2 and 3, felt that that was a reasonable thing after due discussion. The general public, the 70 people that were sending in that did not come to this meeting, were commenting and giving opinions on 3 options. they never had a chance to express their opinion on this option, which is, I believe, the safest one. Thank you.
If I could ask my fellow council member if he would feel more reassured if we amended that motion to include a clause after a safety review by the village's project manager? Would that help your concern?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to amend my motion to adopt option 3, removing the pergola permanently and replacing it with with vegetation for estimated costs of $10,000 to $15,000 after a safety review is completed by the village's project manager. Is there a second on that?
I will second that.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that motion alone? Okay, ready for a vote? All those in favor, and if I need to read it again, I will, but we're just adding the safety review component. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the original motion, comma, after a safety review is completed by the village's project manager. I can hand you the words if you want. So all those in favor, raise their hand, please. It looks like 7 yeses. That would mean 0 noes and 0 abstain. Thank you very much. I mean, this was a very difficult issue. You know, we really didn't have a choice. We had to change the design of the pergola. So do you have any other comments, Jim, that you would like us to know about related to Page Park?
No, we can do the kind of the study on kind of what safety.
Yeah, we can talk
would require.
offline about that.
We can do that, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness and the care associated with it.
Okay, thank you. I don't know where you are, but enjoy your trip, and thank you for calling in.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Jim. We'll follow up offline, yeah. Thank you.
As kind of noted, we're going back to our agenda, which is the chair's announcements. So over the last several months, residents who participated in our virtual meetings have reported that they simply cannot hear. It's either broken up or the quality of the sound is so bad that they can't successfully really participate in our meetings. And I just want you to know that is not acceptable to us. We know that needs to change. We're working on it. Our village manager will report some of what efforts have been made, but we won't stop until it's actually fixed. That's it for me. Now, do we have a sign-up sheet from the public? Thank you. Mr. Pestronk.
Thank you. Bobby Pestronk, 4701 Willard Avenue, Village of Friendship Heights. Just to reflect on my request earlier in the meeting, it has been the consistent practice of the chairperson to reorder items on the agenda, which is the prerogative of the chair. Having been the chair and done it myself, I understand that. But tonight's meeting had under old business, after a number of other items of business, the discussion on the pergola. And I had some questions that I wanted to ask. Whether they would have changed the vote or not, hard to say. But first of all, I didn't hear the chair, either herself or ask the village manager, to report on the actual number of people who voted on each of the options. and I would have requested that ahead of time. In part, I would have done that because of the chair's comments a couple of years ago when we had 400 residents responding to a particular survey on the quality of life in the village, and there were loud protests from the chair about whether that was representative or not, or whether anybody should listen to the results of that survey. So it sounds as though there were very few people who responded, and I was curious to learn what the responses were and the numbers for each option. On a separate issue, which is the EV charging station, which will come up, I hope that during the discussion we'll be able to hear whether all of the money that's needed for the project is currently in the 2025 budget. And if it isn't, where those expenses will be charged and how that will be handled since the budget was adopted last year. And also, third, whether those who use the charging station will be charged for using it. And then on the Red House, I wondered whether union labor will be doing the construction and all of the work on the Red House, and I hope that at some point that will be addressed. Thanks very much.
That's the only comment here.
I don't recall exactly what was put on the website, but the council, as of this evening, does have responses, and Mr. Pastronk is welcome to have.
Thank you, Councilmember Mueller. I think we'll put this on the web. We'll open it up and, not make it behind the hidden part of the web when we. Yes, Mayor?
Yeah, so there was a question if the charging station is in the budget. I'm fairly certain we did include money for the charging station in the budget, which should cover the cost.
Yes,
Okay.
the budget was 25,000.
Okay,
That was,
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're moving on to the village manager's report.
Several items. Well, first of all, the sound system for the live stream we think is already improved. We've got some feedback from this meeting since it just started. There has been a fair amount of testing and back and forth with the contractor that installed the system and operates the live stream, and we did some additional testing this past Friday, and then they did some more testing over the weekend and today. There were some complications with the internet feed going out in the building, which is a separate issue, and we had a Comcast technician out here this evening, late afternoon, just before this council meeting started, to try to figure that out, so we got that straight. But the sound system for live stream, there were some adjustments made on the end of the contractors and in their part of this. So we think that's been improved already, and we hope to continue that, and we will keep monitoring it. There was a fire today at Highland House on Wisconsin Avenue that you may have seen. A tremendous response of fire trucks and roads closed and traffic diverted for a good portion of the day. It was on the 15th floor, we are told. Apparently nobody was hurt, thank goodness. Certainly some damage to the unit, and the residents were not allowed back into the building for some period of time. We did get a call asking if they could come to the village center for shelter, and we said of course, and a few people did that, but most of the folks stayed near the building and in the lobby. There's no official word on what caused it. There will be a fire investigation, and I was told probably 2 or 3 days we'll get some type of report as to what it was. But fortunately, at least from the report we were given, there was nobody hurt in this fire. Last issue is we're proceeding with repairs in the garage of the village center. We just finished the garage column work that had to be done based on a prior leak that had entered into the garage and caused some deterioration in 2 of the columns. And now we're addressing the leak itself, which is going to be a little more complicated and a little more involved, and most likely will involve replacing a waterproofing membrane in the courtyard outside of this building behind the classrooms, and will probably be somewhat expensive and involved. So we're going to get a scope of work and a recommended scope of work from the structural engineer, and we will likely have to advertise for bids to get that work done. So that is in process right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Seems like everything is kind of expensive, isn't it? I'm wondering if you can share with us, what steps we can do to detect these problems earlier or prevent them, like the water leakage. I mean, how long has it been going on, et cetera?
It's just very tricky. We've had leaks on and off since this building was built. We've had a history of leaks in this building that we've addressed in various parts of the building, and as Dr. Mueller can attest, even more so than I can. That it's very tricky to find the source of leaks, particularly when it's down in the garage. It can be coming in from different spots, and you can't necessarily isolate the one spot. So it involves usually some exploratory work. But basically, you just try to pinpoint the location as best you can above where you're seeing it enter. And there's a variety of different ways to attack it depending on what is the surface conditions outside. We have another leak in the corner of the building that's outside the library that's a little easier to remedy, so we're told, because it's in a landscaping area where they can inject some type of substance to keep the leak from penetrating into the garage from there. But when it's an issue of a membrane underneath a brick courtyard, that's more involved. And
Right,
the
I think-
membrane there is, coming up on 40 years old, which is, I'm sure, beyond the normal life of a waterproofing membrane. Usually they get to be replaced even before that.
To my knowledge, almost every condo in Friendship Heights has got a membrane problem of some form that turns out to be very expensive to replace. So the sooner we can sort of detect problems, I think the cheaper it will be when we actually fix them, hopefully. I think we're on to mayor's comments.
Thank you. So I just have one announcement. On Wednesday, December 17th at 1 p.m., the Montgomery County Police's Financial Crimes Division will give a presentation at the Village Center on fraud prevention. Learn how to protect yourself from frauds and scams during the holiday and year-round, and registration is required to reserve a seat. And beyond that, I have very little to say. I just want to wish everybody a healthy and happy holiday season. Thank you.
Treasurer's report. This time I didn't forget. Third time is the charm for me.
Thanks, Martha. As Julian noted in the Friday memo, staff from the Maryland Controller's Office provided us with income tax revenue estimates for the remainder of 2026 and 2027. And the good news is that income tax revenues for this year are expected to come in at approximately $1.8 million, which is well above the budgeted amount of $1.5 million. It's important to note, however, that the FY26 revenue is from calendar year 2024 income tax filings, which is mostly before, Trump took office, and so it doesn't reflect really the impact of the government layoffs and shutdown. In 2027, the Controller's Office estimates are that income tax revenues will decline to about $1.57 million, which represents about a 15% decline from this year's estimate. And that does, in fact, reflect the likely impact of layoffs and the shutdown. But I think the good news is that most of the forecasts are that Montgomery County will remain reasonably resilient despite federal workforce reductions, with the county currently estimating total revenue growth in FY27 at 3.5%, and then declining to 2.3 to 2.6% in subsequent years through 2031. Starting with the state's income tax estimates, I've done some very preliminary budget forecasts for the village for the remainder of the fiscal year and next. And it appears that even assuming higher inflation and cost increases and slower economic growth, we are still in good financial shape with an estimated surplus in both 26 and 2027. So this puts us in a good position to handle the economic uncertainty that we're facing, although obviously we've got to continue to keep a close eye on things going forward. But I will say this, that even in the likely event that we're hit with a recession, which some people say is a possibility in the next year or 18 months or so, we've built up strong reserves that will enable us to weather any sort of economic storms that come our way. And so our reserves currently total $5.3 million at the end of November, up more than, I guess, 500,000 from the start of the year, and so that's really good. So we're in pretty good financial shape going forward, even with the uncertainty that's facing us. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer. We are moving on to a very timely topic. Chris Nauer from our Climate Change Committee is going to talk to us about salt, which we have seen a lot of in the last few days. If you could go to the microphone, thank you. And did I skip something?
Hi, Chris Nauer, Willard Towers.
I'm sorry, I did this out of order, but just go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay.
I apologize.
I was wondering about that.
I
I was
had to screw
looking at the
something up,
agenda.
right?
Okay. It's okay. I'm ready. Okay. Here we go. I would like to hand you each a flyer from the Maryland Department of the Environment with guidelines for safe salt use on our streets this winter. Yeah, there you go, Juliana. Sure, that would be great. Bobby, do you want one? I got a different one. Okay. Okay, the handout I just gave you is called A Pinch of Salt, the Recipe for Winter Salt Perfection. It's from the Maryland Department of the Environment, and it talks about how to use salt safely and wisely in this upcoming season for the winter. And walking up here, I do have to say, I came up North Park from Willard Towers. I was on the side with 4620. They did a great job. They have salted their sidewalks exactly in accordance with this, which is 12 ounces of winter salt per 10 sidewalk squares. It doesn't seem feasible, but it is, and it works.
Do you think that has something to do with one of our committee members works in 4620?
I do.
Okay.
I do. We have a committee member who works in that building, and it looks like she got her maintenance people to actually do it right. So I'm reporting, this is the second time that I've reported to the council on this issue. I reported last fall. Was it the same council or a previous council? It doesn't matter. Anyway, we're concerned. I'm with the Ad Hoc Advisory Committee of Climate Change and the Environment. So I'm representing that committee here tonight. We are concerned once again about the bad effects of excess salt use on the sidewalks of our village. We can't do anything about the streets. The county does what they do, but we can do something about salting our sidewalks. Basically, what we're trying to do this year is educate the public, the residents, as well as the village managers. Last year, we gave handouts to Julian, who met with the village managers and said, these are the guidelines from Maryland and Montgomery County for the application of salt. It was totally disregarded by the managers. They threw out hands full and buckets full of salt. So I'll tell you why it's bad for those who might not have heard about this. First of all, it's damaging to the sidewalks and the vegetation next to the sidewalks. It's also damaging to dogs' paws because it's very corrosive. But the thing that we're most concerned about, it's very damaging to the creek, the waters of our creek, because if we flow downhill, so anything that's put on the sidewalk and that's still sitting there or melts after it has melted, becomes water, goes down the curb down the street into Little Falls Creek, which is right adjacent to where I live. And I know that Bobby has been very active in testing for salt in this creek, and it was outrageously high last year. It was way beyond not only what it should be, but what's safe. So we're basically, in effect, polluting the Potomac River, which provides our own drinking water. So maybe we're polluting the people downstream in the district, but people up in Somerset and Rockville, et cetera, are polluting our water because it's not taken up by water treatment facilities. The salt just stays there. There's no effective way for WSSC water to remove this salt. So the whole Potomac River is getting saltier and saltier, which has become a health problem for people with heart problems and other health issues. That's why it's bad. So we're trying to figure out a way that would be successful to prevent this happening. So now what we did in November was put a small piece in the Mayor's Corner telling residents about the salt issue and how there's been excess salting of village streets in the past. Now, I read the Mayor's Corner and I read the whole newsletter from you, but I don't think a lot of people in my building read that newsletter. So what we have to do is reach out more extensively to get the residents on board about this issue, because I know what is happening. The minute there's a snowfall or ice, the residents are saying to the building manager, come on, throw more salt on, I don't want to fall, I don't want to slip, not understanding that it doesn't work and that they're actually contributing to a big problem. And it is also not effective. So this document that you see is Maryland's recommendations for the use of salt. So here are the ingredients: 12 ounces of salt per 10 sidewalk squares, a snowy sidewalk, a snow shovel, a broom, and a dustpan. Okay, using the shovel or broom, remove as much snow as possible, fill a 12-ounce mug with salt, spread it so that you... Oh, yeah. No, they're not. But the residents are holding the management liable if anything happens. So I think it's possibly a liability issue that the residents think that the more salt that's out there, the safer they are. And the managers are afraid of being sued because they didn't put enough, not understanding that it's not effective. Oh, wow. Look at this. Because Bobby actually goes out and measures the salt in the creek. That would be fill 10 sidewalk squares because it's supposed to be the grains this far apart. So those are the guidelines.
So
Now-
in essence, what we're doing now isn't working.
That's right.
We need
It's
to do
not
more
working.
from residents, and
Right.
I know, Julian, you approached the building managers, and if you could make a special effort at 5550, it's terrible. They're just
really?
put so much, it's shocking.
Well, I can
Yeah.
tell you what else our committee has done before you ask questions.
Yeah, we have about a minute more.
Okay, yeah. We are planning, our committee is planning in-person visits to each building's manager or owner's board. So they have these flyers in hand, and we're planning to meet with each of the building managers. Hopefully, 2 people from each building, so it has an impact, 2 residents from the building. We're also hoping to find a way to train maintenance and contract crews on safe salt use. And we hope that we can, that you can help us to contact nearby towns and villages, such as Somerset, to discuss how they're dealing with this issue, because I know they have a big problem with it too. I just walked up there today. So, thank you very much. Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much for representing the committee and bringing this very important issue to our attention. Councilmember Mueller, do you have a comment or question?
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
I would suggest that in addition to everything you've said, you might want to find a way to address the condominium boards, because it's the boards more than the poor managers who hear this from residents, as you correctly pointed out. When they come out and they begin slipping, they will say, and not just to the manager, but more easily to one of the 5 to 7 board members, why aren't you getting this done? And I think everything you've said is very important, but it's hard to argue with what looks like needing more salt.
That's right. It is very hard. First of all, you're talking about condos. I'm also in a rental building, and there Highland House is rental, and so does 4615. So we don't have condo boards.
Yeah,
We have
but
managers.
the Hill has the Carlton, 4620, and the Elizabeth,
I know, I understand, and the Willoughby.
and the Willoughby.
Right. No, I understand that. So we've got members in our committee from many different buildings. So they have agreed to approach their condo boards in the case of a condo, or the manager in the case of a rental. So we're going to see how that works.
Thank you very much,
You're
and
very
thank you for
welcome.
bringing this really important issue to everyone's attention.
Very welcome.
Now, I apologize, I went out of order again by accident. I should have brought up committee reports, the first of which is the Advisory Committee on Development, and Councilmember Klein.
Well, actually, Madam Chair, I would prefer to just combine the report with the 2 letters that I'm going to
Fair
be
enough.
bringing up for
Okay.
a vote, one on parcel 6 and the other on recommending, both of them recommending letters from the mayor to the library officials of the county and to the planning staff.
Sure.
So thank you.
Treasurer, do you have a report on the Finance Committee?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Martha. The Finance Committee met back on November 18th, and just as by way of a little bit of background, I've been working closely with staff to help upgrade our accounting system as well as streamline the transaction review and check signing procedures. Good, in my opinion, good financial management really heavily depends on efficient and transparent accounting systems and procedures. We've made some significant progress over the past several months by creating a monthly list of investments and transactions, both now included in the monthly accounting statement, and also by clarifying some investment management procedures. But more work needs to be done. Our current accounting system is somewhat cumbersome and outdated in that it requires dual entries on some transactions. We don't have a process in place that makes it easy to periodically review revenue and expenditure transactions, although the transaction list included in the monthly accounting report is a good start with that. And we have a check signing procedure that requires 2 elected officials to sign all checks, and I believe that this process is difficult and time-consuming for staff to administer and needs to be streamlined. I also believe that the village manager, as the person with lead responsibility for managing village finances, should be the primary signer on checks. So as a next step, at last month's Finance Committee meeting, I proposed that we streamline the check signing process by designating the village manager as primary check signer and the treasurer, with the treasurer required to review and co-sign checks. Committee members discussed the issue at length and questioned the need for the new procedure. I noted that there is no precedent that I'm aware of for multiple elected officials being required to sign checks. It was agreed we would follow up with nearby municipalities to better understand the processes they use, and consideration was also given to bringing in a consultant to provide a recommendation, although we're holding off on that for now pending further review and discussion. So we'll review the issue again at the next Finance Committee meeting, currently scheduled for January 20th, before developing a recommendation to present to Village Council. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Conlow. Councilmember Mueller, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, Village Manager, has any information been received from other local governments on the systems they use?
Several, yes, but not fully. We haven't fully received all the information, but we've heard from several.
Have any of them followed the system that Treasurer Conlow has suggested?
2 so far.
Madam Chair, with all due respect, this has gone back and forth for a couple of months now. I think the fact is that the treasurer has suggested something that he feels strongly about. It's borne out by other local governments that use it. It has a council member and a staff person, and as I understood listening to this proposal, which was not mine, that it's easy for any other council member to question anything. The reports have become much more detailed. I personally think the council is the ones that it's going to have to finally come back to. Let's get it over and done with in this year. The fact is, Madam Chair, that it's January, by the time that meeting comes, then we have to come back to the council again. We're using up time that could be better spent on a lot of other things, both by the staff and by the council members. Everything doesn't have to go back and forth to the committee. This is not the United States Senate. Really, I move, therefore, that we accept the treasurer's suggestion and allow this to finally be solved and let this be a new system for 2026. We can begin anew. So I so move. And this is a surprise, I will point out, so.
He did move. Would you mind stating it very slowly so that our secretary can record the motion?
Well, the motion is very simple, that the treasurer's recommendation for the signing of checks be accepted. What that is, the treasurer can explain it better than I, but it's basically, as far as the actual details, it allows the manager and the treasurer, with backups if one of them's not available.
Is there a second to the
describing it.
motion?
Pardon?
Is there a second to the motion? I think the committee will continue
To delay.
deliberate on the issue. Thank you. Councilmember Kano, I think you keep your microphone on to talk about pedestrian safety.
Got it. Okay. We've received a total of 6 proposals in response to the RFP we put out in November to do a 2-phase pedestrian safety study of a total of 10 intersections, half of which are fully within the village. The other half are on boundary streets, including Willard and Wisconsin. And of the 6 proposals that we received, one was from a company that was primarily in employment recruiting, not traffic engineering, and so de facto was not qualified. So basically 5 proposals that met our, that were reasonable. I think all 5 were pretty good in their own way, but the experience cited by many of the firms, and this is my opinion, tended to be more broadly focused, working primarily with large government entities, where the emphasis is often on transportation planning and data-driven analysis such as Vision Zero and that sort of thing. In my mind, though, one of the firms stood out, and for a very detailed proposal that was well tailored to our needs. The firm had a lot of experience working for smaller towns such as the Village. The firm is the Traffic Group. It's a Baltimore-based company that has done work for Somerset, Chevy Chase Village, Chevy Chase View, Martin's Addition, and Grosvenor Park. Pardon me, I may have mispronounced that. But I believe the Traffic Group's proposal stood out because it recommended we do the project in 1 phase. We had originally proposed 2, at a cost of $83,500 versus $91,000 in 2 phases. And it provided a very detailed list of deliverables, including an emphasis on video analytics, community outreach, proposed improvements tailored to senior citizens, including signal timing adjustments, coordination with the county on recommended improvements at boundary intersections, which is really very important if we hope to get anything done. So I just want to reiterate that this is a proposed capital project funded through our reserve funds with a study recommending specific improvements and estimated costs that will be subject to future review and approval by council. The proposals were reviewed by an administrative group, including Martha, Francine, Julian, and myself. At a meeting that we had about a week or two ago, Martha and Julian both concurred that the traffic group was the preferred choice. So having said that, the recommendation is the traffic group. Anybody else want to make any comments?
Normally, we have a motion, a second, and then we have comments.
Sorry.
If you want to make your motion?
Yes. Okay. I make the following motion. I move to adopt the proposal from the traffic group for a single-phase study totaling $83,500 submitted in response to the village's RFP for a pedestrian safety study.
I second that, having served on the committee reviewing them. One of the things. Do I need to repeat that? I'm seconding it. I did serve on the committee. I don't think, and I think we talked about, there wasn't really a close second. This was really by far the most appropriate for our community. And I thought it was interesting that they noted the actions that have been taken so far in the village were ad hoc and not part of a coordinated effort. And that's what we're trying to get at now. So I thank you for working on the RFP and getting these proposals. I think it's really necessary for us to do this sooner rather than later. Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Mueller?
I will be supporting this, but I believe that it is very unlikely that we will come up with any exciting new proposals. Yes, there have been ad hoc attempts to address a very serious problem. There are a lot of cars that don't stop, and it endangers our pedestrians. Fortunately, there have not been but a few accidents, but even a few are too many. But there have been a number of things done. Yes, one at a time. That's true. There have been speed bumps most recently. There have been those signs that keep proving how unsafe it is because they keep getting knocked down. There have been review with the county on whether there could be stoplights. Those have been deemed inappropriate by the county and not appreciated by a number of residents over the years that we've proposed this. There is at least one blinking light, and there can be more of them. There are now police officers who stop people and give them warnings or tickets. And despite that, there are still people that don't obey common sense and the law. I think to get this finally resolved, to have a consultant is the last best thing we can do. And maybe, hopefully, there will be something or combination of things that will help. I doubt it, but I think it's worthwhile doing it once and for all, because no matter what has been done, just because it's ad hoc, Madam Chair, doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. But once and for all, let's have some consultants who have a good record, and I certainly appreciate what the committee has done in reviewing this. It's a very complex and specific set of proposals, and I'm delighted that they've gone over this to save us the time. So with that hope, rather than expectation, let's just do it and not send it back to committee, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Klein?
Thank you. Well, I did read their proposal, and I think it is excellent, and I do hold out hope that they will come up with improvements. I think that in recent years, I have noted different technologies being used to actually notify you when there is someone who is at the crosswalk about to enter it. And I see that up and down Wisconsin Avenue. It's not a light. It only goes on when someone is close to or in the crosswalk. I think it has a salutary effect. I've seen many cars stopping when those lights go off, because they know it means there's actually a person in the crosswalk or about to enter one. And that was one of the things that they were recommending. They also pointed out that certain assumptions about the way people cross streets are not the same as we get older, as when we're younger, and that there are things you can do about that as well. So not to improve our speed, but to deal with the cars that need to cross as well. So I am hopeful, John, and I thank you for your work on this, and I think it's a great proposal.
Any other comments or questions before I call for the vote? So all those in favor of adopting the traffic group proposal, if you could raise your hand. And it looks like unanimously for this proposal. And I too thank John for his, a lot of time you spent on this, and I think all of us appreciate it. Thank you. Now we're moving to the EV charging station proposal, and I'm going to hand some of this to Julian to explain why this is our second time up at bat with this. 2 times we get it right, and then we can answer some questions. But we did vote on these funds coming from the capital budget in the prior council, and if you could share anything you know on that also, village manager.
Yeah, so originally we were contemplating 2 EV charging stations, and that was actually what was considered in the budget of $25,000 that was approved for this current year. As we went through the process, we learned that the charging station has to be ADA compliant, which means it has to be considerably wider than a normal parking space, a regular size parking space, such that there's only room in this location for now 1 ADA accessible charging station. And this is behind the house that the village owns at 4602 North Park, where the artists are there, and the police field office is also in that property. There's a small lot behind that building that is not regularly used by either the tenant or by the police. So we thought that would be a good location for the charging station. So we did issue a revised RFP, and we received the 5 proposals that you have in front of you, and only one of them is at the budget level. The other 4 are considerably higher.
This idea originated from the Climate Change and Environment Committee. It was brought to the prior council that approved allocating funds from the capital budget, if I recall correctly. But the way the decision was left was that our committee would work with the village manager to find an appropriate place in the appropriate implementation and installation of this charging station. And I believe that at this time, the decision is not to charge for it.
Correct.
The actual electricity charges are extremely low, and sometimes the cost of actually charging exceeds the cost of the electricity. This would be the only charging station available to anyone in the village.
Within the village, yes.
That's
Yes.
what I meant, but
Yes.
yeah. Mhm. Is there anything, Councilmember Mueller?
Manager Mansfield, how is this going to be coordinated once we have this set up? How do people sign in? Does the staff here know who's using it and how long they will use it, and how is it monitored? How do people line up to get it? Fill us in on some of that.
When we were talking with the village manager, we decided to start out with low or no restrictions. And if we need to impose restrictions or monitoring as time goes on, we can do that. But we decided to start with an open system, kind of like they have over at Freshfields. Anybody can use it, plug it in. It's very, as I said, very low cost on electricity. And if that turns out to be a problem, then we can put signage, we can start setting rules. I think that's what your suggestion was, if I recall, village manager, and you can
Yeah,
answer
and
further.
also just to speak to the issue of how people know it's there, that there is an app. I mean, it will be searchable and findable for people with EVs who are looking for charging stations. It will show up on an app that shows the location of where these are, so people will find it that way. I do think we may need to do some monitoring just periodically, or we could even have the off-duty police monitor it as they're around the village to make sure that folks aren't leaving their cars there for excessive amounts of time. That is something that we've heard can be an issue. Somebody leaves it there and considers it like a parking space and goes away for hours and hours.
How long does it take to recharge the car? And
Depends. I think it depends on
It
the
depends on the
type
battery
of
and the
vehicle.
type of car. Like my car, it takes 3 hours.
well, and what if someone else wants to recharge? How do they?
They have to wait until you're gone, one at a time. Two can't do it at the same time.
It
you know.
seems very loosey-goosey to me. One charging station for a village of 5,000 people?
All 5,000 people don't have cars that need EV chargers either.
Yeah, but there must be at least 10. How do they determine when they're going to use it? And if someone's using it, how do they know when they can come back?
I'm not sure I understand, the same way they know it,
Gas
you know, what do we call it? Amazon Fresh, when to come back, if it's available. And also, there are apps that say, oh, this one's open. So you can look on an app and find that no one's using it.
It's a village app or it's a
No,
countywide?
it's
I
actually,
know
it's
nothing about
nationwide,
it.
but, yeah. But I think we understand that
And how
we
do
may
we-
need to tighten up, but we decided
I-
to start at the lowest level. And if
I have
you,
questions because I don't know how this works, so excuse my ignorance.
no,
but-
no, questions
but
are fine.
How do we know that they are our residents using this?
We don't know that.
So this is a community service that we're providing,
Right. Many governments do this.
really? Which ones in this area?
Oh, Gaithersburg, I think there's charging stations at the Bethesda, well, all over Bethesda, every
They're
parking.
not a government.
Town of Kensington.
Kensington, the
They have-
Bethesda
they have one
Library
or two
has
at their
charging
town
Does
stations.
Chevy
hall.
Chase Village, does Somerset, do any of the tax districts or municipalities in our area do it? Because if they don't, I would think that people with electric cars will drive over here.
Most people with electric cars already have a way to charge their cars. Or they wouldn't be able to get over here.
Well, if that's true, why do we need an that doesn't ring true with me.
It helps.
If they already have a way, why do we have
There
another?
are people in our village where their primary method to charge the car either breaks down, or people can't use their garage for a while, or there's a visitor.
The Elizabeth does have a number of stations. I don't know how many are used. I think the system's working very well, and Councilwoman Klein will know exactly how the system's working. Those are within the building itself.
I know that, but these would be for
Well-
the public.
I don't know how you measure success or failure.
Well, I think we'll see if it's being used and if it's being used appropriately. Many people will charge the car and remove it because they need it charged to go someplace. And I understand that it's kind of a token effort to bring EV stations to the village, but it's been budgeted for, and we're ready to move it forward. And it seems like a good idea at this point to proceed with the project, to my way of thinking.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I just have one comment. The recommendation said that this company has done similar work in a nearby commercial residential area. So has anyone from the village just taken a look at what they did?
They sent us a bunch of photos. It's from Sumner Village. It's nearby. It's a residential commercial community on Mass Avenue.
Okay. But has anyone just
Yeah.
physically gone over there and taken a look at it?
Not at this particular
Okay.
location, but they sent a lot of photos of what it would look like, and yeah, it would be similar here.
How many?
The charging
places-
station itself is,
How many places
pretty
do they have
standard.
at Sumner Village? How many places, how
How many
many
units?
charging stations?
2, I believe, 2.
Sumner Village was the first community in Friendship Heights that had condominiums, if that helps.
Any other questions or comments? I can't even remember, did I make a motion or not? Can I repeat my motion, just in case? I move to adopt the proposal from Electrical Connections for an ADA-compliant EV charging station for $25,780, which is their bid.
Second?
Thank you, I've got a second. Any more discussion or comments? All those in favor, raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
I abstain.
6 and 1 abstain. Thank you, the motion passes. We're moving on to Councilmember Klein's 2 topics related to the Development Committee.
Yes. Thank people from the committee who are here tonight. We continue to meet on a weekly basis. We're having excellent discussions about the development of Friendship Heights and Friendship Heights Village in particular. There are 2 letters tonight that I'm bringing forward, asking approval by the council for a letter from the mayor to Montgomery County Library Board in support of a public library and performing arts center in the revised Friendship Heights sector plan. The Advisory Committee on Development is very much supporting a library along with a performing arts center in the sector plan. We believe that a library will help with branding efforts for Friendship Heights and is really emblematic of the importance the community places on education and the availability of resource materials. So I move, the letters are in your packet. The letter to the library, Julian, needs to be modified so that it reflects it's coming from the mayor to the library.
I second.
Any other discussion or comments? I think we're ready to vote. I'm happily voting for this. I fully support the idea behind it. All those in favor raise their hand. I think it is unanimous at 7-0.
Thank you. And I want to thank Cameron Moody and others on the committee who really worked hard to get a letter that reflected the consensus of the committee. Next, I have a letter that we're proposing for the mayor to sign to the Montgomery County Planning Department explaining the village's concerns with the development on Parcel 6. Parcel 6 is the parcel that sits between Willard and North Park, and it's to the west of Shoemaker Lane and next to 4620 on the south side of North Park Avenue. Based on conversations that we've had with the planning staff and a review of the parcel by members of the council, walking on the parcel, and a review of the height of the buildings on the parcel, none of which is more than 40 feet high. If you look at the light that the parcel provides to the Willoughby, the Carlton, the 4620, 4615, and the Elizabeth, there's a tremendous amount of light that flows from north to North Park, and the residents along Shoemaker, along the side, the west side of 4620, the fronts of Elizabeth and 4615. It really keeps the North Park from becoming a canyon and gives tremendous amount of natural light. I know many people have selected their apartments based on the light, and in the last two sector plans, both in 1974 and then in 1998, the sector plans called for keeping small-scale buildings on parcel 6 for visual relief, to keep a cannon-like effect from being created on North Park Avenue, and for green space. There's a lot of green space on the parcel, not necessarily along the perimeter, although there's some mature trees along the perimeter on North Park, created on both sides of the street because of all the light, but also in the middle of the parcel, there's a lot of green as well that's visible. And we think that keeping it small scale also meets the missing middle piece that the county is looking for, the missing middle housing that the county is seeking of 40 feet or less. So that letter has also been provided to members of the council, and I want to thank John for the work that he's done, and Al as well, in helping to edit it, and Mayor Schaefer as well, your comments. Thank you very much. So at that point, I move to approve issuance by the mayor of a letter to Montgomery County Planning Department explaining the village's concerns with development on parcel 6.
And I second.
Questions or comments? Councilmember Mueller?
I want to thank the chair lady. Francine has done an enormous effort in researching and summarizing, in distributing and getting comments from everyone on the committee and even not on the committee. And the bottom line is it's a wonderful statement of balanced growth. I emphasize it strongly favors increased housing, but of a very moderate nature. At the same time, balancing this with continued green space and open air. It's a magnificent effort, and I thank the chairlady because this is the heart and soul of the present sector plan that I hear again and again from people. Well, that's an old sector plan. Well, we still need to conserve. We still need to have green open space. I don't care if it's 25 years old. We have always had in this village, as long as I've been here, a fair, balanced plan, having more housing, having more amenities, but keeping as much open space and green space and protected space as we can. So I thank the chair. She's done a magnificent job, and it's taken a lot of time and effort.
Other comments or questions? I also echo my thanks, and it's really an outstanding argument for what we need. So I appreciate your work. All those in favor of the motion to approve issuance of that letter by the mayor, raise their hand. And it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you. The motion passes. We have only one more item for the mayor to initiate.
Yes, so I nominate Michael Cooperman, who is the president of the Willoughby, to serve on the Development Committee.
Okay, since that's a nomination of the mayor, I'm sorry, we don't do a second on that.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. That's okay. All those in favor of Michael Cooperman's serving on the Advisory Development Committee, raise their hand, and I guess that's also unanimous. Thank you very much. The motion passes. I know, no, we both have to leave at 8, so we're kind of rushing along here. But everyone, thank you very much. Have a happy holiday, safe and happy New Year. I know you won't slip on the ice because you'll be watching out for the salt. Thank you very much.
circulating the letter once we get it out the door. Yes, yes, yes. Hi, Ken. You deserve it.